Hello, everybody, and welcome to Adobe Live. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we are streaming and creating today, and pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging. My name is Flynn. I'm hosting today. This is part of a series all about Adobe MAX, which is happening in just 2 weeks, which is crazy that we're here again. You can go and register online for that. We're inviting a whole bunch of our speakers from the Asia Pacific region to come and sit down, have a little bit of a chat, maybe show a little bit of who these speakers are, and also talk about their session and have a little bit of a play around. I'm very delighted to be joined. He's been on the live stream once before, but I love this guy, recording artist, photographer, and creative director, Taku. How you doing?
How you going, man? Good to
I'm
see you
good.
again.
It's good to see you too.
Did you say Max is 2 weeks away?
Yeah, I think so, isn't it? Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, nuts.
That's crazy.
Or at least, yeah. It's all happening very, very soon. I'm pretty sure it's 2 weeks.
Wow.
Here we are again, and you are speaking. You are speaking at Max, which is awesome.
Yeah, what an honor. I'm so excited. Max last year was my first one, and this is my second, so
Awesome.
that made sense. Yeah.
That made sense. So, were you speaking last year, or you went and attended?
I was just an attendee, and like even that, I shouldn't say just an attendee. It was like I've been to a lot of, you know, festivals, conferences, and things. This
Yeah,
was like one of my favorite things I've ever been to.
yeah.
And it was just wild. I didn't know what to expect, and um, it blew me away, to be honest. So I'm excited for round two this year
That's
in
awesome.
Miami.
That's awesome. And yeah, for those that don't know you, I think what we'll do is we'll segue a little bit into like a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll talk about the session a little bit because I love the session title. It's so you and everything. Like it's been super cool. It's been great. I got a chance to kind of work with you a little bit on it, at least at the beginning, anyway. So yeah, let's chat about that. So yeah, Taku, like, can you tell people what's your elevator pitch when you do everything? How do you do that?
I normally give them candy, and then I start that way.
Yeah.
No, it's hard to. I think last time I came on Max, so the last time I came on live, it was a similar conversation where it's like I really don't know how to introduce myself to people, but I
Yeah.
do start with recording artist, which is like a fancy name for a bedroom producer, because that's where I started.
Yeah.
And then the last, decade, which is crazy to say, has just been me trying different things and doing
Mm.
okay at those things and becoming hyper obsessed with
Yeah.
those things. And, some of them are, photography is a big one. And visual arts, I would say. I mean, someone came up to me and said, "Oh, are you a collage artist?" And I'm like, "Sure,
Yeah.
let's go with
Right.
that." um, so it's just been like an evolution or amalgamation of things I'm really into. A lot of things to do with like youth culture, sports and music, all melded into like, visual ideas I like to put out into the world. But
Yeah.
in short, I guess I'm just an artist that likes to try different things,
Mm.
and not afraid to either.
Yeah. I think it's infectious for sure. I remember like when we finished our last live stream, I was just like, oh man, it just like does whatever all the time. And I really love that. And not saying that is in there's no sense of purpose or anything. There's clearly this design, like solution kind of orientated art and like using design as a medium. Anyway, I get super excited. I got super excited last live stream we did. I was like fully energized like after it to try more new things,
To
which is
try
super cool.
pottery.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. And so let's have a look at maybe one or two of your bits of work. We've talked about the music, but also, yeah, like photography, graphic design, motion, collage. Like I've seen it all. Let's have a look at one or two projects, I think.
Yeah, so this is like my Instagram. So for anyone watching, just follow me. Just dive in, have a follow. Um, I think I I think
Nice.
personally that a lot of the stuff I do is just kind of just going to where my interests lie. And a lot of those interests are based on things that I see and digest. And I'm someone that just loves to, see art in all its forms, the good, the bad, the stuff that resonates with me, the stuff that doesn't resonate with me. But I think photography, one thing that I've kind of been really proud of is like, being true to my photographic style. This is like a collaboration I did with a brand where, I took photos just traveling throughout Japan and Korea, but
Mm.
it came from a very special place in terms of like what I do it for and why I do these things. And I've never really kind of set out to do things, like you said. um, without purpose. It's
Mm.
always to tell a story. It's always to kind of to show people where I come from and where I'm going. And it just lately, it's just become like this really super hyper expression of, taking a lot of the stuff I do, and trying to find new ways to communicate it to people. So
Mm.
obviously, I'm a photographer, and I take a lot of photos, but like sometimes that's not enough for me in terms of how I'm displaying it to the people that follow me, or to my mum, or to my family. And that's why I think working with tools like, Adobe tools has helped me kind of express myself in a way that just takes it a little further, and experimenting with interesting techniques. I mean, this is like a series I'm doing of taking photos of people that inspire me and
Mm.
trying to think about something about their personality that I can turn into a visual technique that, kind of represents them in a way, and it's kind of like playing on their personality and their style.
Yeah.
All of these things just different. I mean, I'm just winging it a lot of the time when I'm making this stuff. But I've been having the most fun I have ever in my creative life, this last couple of years, just kind of opening up the playing field.
Yeah.
Also, I have a creative agency where we do a lot of, really interesting, forward-thinking graphic design, campaign, creative direction, for music artists, for big brands, for whoever wants it, really.
Mm.
But we're super passionate about, pursuing future forward, exciting work that kind of breaks through the algorithm
Yeah.
and breaks through this, doom scrolling. If we can make something that makes people want to stop and think and watch it at least twice, um, I'm happy. And that's kind of where I sit at the moment between kind of all these mediums. I just kind of have a lot of fun just messing around,
Yeah.
and failing at the same time. But sometimes I don't fail, so it's good.
Sometimes I don't fail, so it's good. I like that.
Sometimes, yeah,
That's a t-shirt or a bumper sticker right there.
that's the mantra.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like very fluid. I really like the way that you said this is where I'm at now. Like clearly it can change, right? Like it's a very fluid kind of, reactionary kind of going with the flow kind of approach, which I really, really like not pigeonholing yourself like, oh, okay, this worked, so I'm going to stick to this now.
Totally. It's going to change as well. I think for any creators that are watching, where you are now is the most important place you need to be. But also, it's exciting to know that you're going to go somewhere else eventually.
Yeah.
Um, and the older you get, I mean, like I'm in my late 30s, um, my interests change, my priorities change, my tastes change,
Mm.
and it's okay. A lot of people look back at their past work and cringe. I just look back at it and say, wow, I've grown a lot, and it's like
Yeah.
I've adjusted the way I think and the way I feel. And that's exciting as an artist to know that you're gonna be somewhere different in
Yeah.
a few years.
Yeah, exactly. It keeps it fresh, right? Um,
Yeah.
that's super cool. Yeah, so I could talk about this stuff with you all day, but let's move along to your Adobe Max session. We'll talk about that just for a sec. So, bit of a plug for Adobe Max. If you haven't registered yet, I encourage you to do so before the event starts. It helps you kind of schedule your day because there's heaps of stuff. So it's good to kind of just have a look before the event starts, just to kind of plan your session. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about your session? And this is online, so everybody in the world can watch this. So anyone watching this, you can go online now, register for Max, and you can add this to your schedule.
Yeah, this session I'm really excited about. And shout out to Flynn. He's,
That's
we
me.
kind of like hashed this out at the beginning, and he was quite open to me approaching a online session that wasn't full of technical wizardry, because that's not who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you how to. I can't even come up with technical terms right now, so I'm not going to do that. Um,
Yeah.
for me, it was more about when I was talking to Flynn about, what my session could be. It was like, can we just talk about more of a loose, broad, general creative inspiration? Where my background as an artist is, I started quite late. I didn't really know what I wanted to be at all until very late in my life. Um, and then I became hyper obsessed with a few things, and then I kind of just went for a lot of different things at the same time. And I guess that's why it's called like the master of none,
Yeah.
the art of experimentation. I really do feel that I am not like super, super great or like amazing at one thing. I just love experimenting with different things, and the feeling of being okay at being average or maybe just a bit above average at a bunch of things
Mm,
super excites me. And I
mm,
think that's really what my session's about. Like if you're a creative right now or want to be a creative or haven't thought about how to break through the barrier to make that, take that leap, I think you'll really like this session because I really just talk about the art of experimentation and how that can get you out of the rut of thinking you have to be this super ultra perfect artist that is
mm.
going to be the best in the world. That's a great vision to have, and if that's you, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there's a real beauty in kind of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to see what feels good, to
Yeah.
see what you like. Because unless you don't do that, you're not going to know. So the Master of None art of experimentation is really about my background as an artist, how I kind of fell into this creative world. How I was able to talk at Adobe MAX online this year, which is wild for me
Yeah.
after being a visitor last year. I think it just goes to show that, you know, you can have this mindset and you will achieve things as a creative.
Mm.
Um, and I think that's what I'm excited the most for people to get from this session.
Yeah.
Hopefully for those that, are kind of thinking what they want to do, or if they want to switch lanes,
Yeah.
this will definitely give you the kind of inspiration to do so.
That's exactly right. I think it skews. I think it skews young as well. Like I feel like a lot of younger creators or people like that are getting new into the industry, regardless of age. Like this is the this is the sort of more of the model of what you will need to be to honestly to be successful as a creative. I think in the future, like there's
Totally.
so much stuff getting thrown at people now that wasn't that way when I was a design student. Like it was like, do you want to
Yeah,
be a web designer or a graphic designer? And there were two different things, or maybe you want to go into advertising, But this idea of like you really need to be across motion, animation. You need to be able to kind of write. You need to be able to talk. I've stuck a camera in front of you a couple of times. It's like, cool, let's do a live stream. Okay, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, I think, is a really important trait.
totally. I think people will always going to pigeonhole you as a creative,
Yeah,
whether it's, people you work with or the people that follow you. Breaking that mold, and having that mindset to break the mold of like, I'm not just one thing and I never will be.
mm,
And that's okay. I think is a really powerful tool to have because you just have this autonomy and this movement as the creative to take what you learned, at medium A and implement it with medium B. And that's a really unique perspective to have that will kind of unlock this new opportunity for you. So I agree. I think it's really exciting, especially for young creatives out there that feel like they have to be one thing. This is another option to take if
yeah.
you want it.
There you go. That's awesome. All right. Well, we could, as always, I could just chat to you about this stuff forever, but we'll turn it into a podcast. It's way too quick. Should we fire up Photoshop? Have a play around in there today?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I thought I'd kind of just show you, to be honest, what I do a lot. And it's not super exciting, but it kind of just speaks into the Master of None ethos
Awesome.
of taking kind of like old photos. Um, I have this idea where I really want to remix a lot of these old photos I took in 2016, which is crazy. That's 8 years ago.
Oh wow.
Last
Yeah.
time I was in Miami. And this is actually the first time I kind of picked up film photography. So these photos aren't amazing. But what excites me about this is, now that I'm going back to Miami, revisiting these photos and
Mm.
chucking them through the Adobe Photoshop ringer, and it's quite cathartic. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it and talk because if I don't talk, you might switch off. But
Okay.
I think for me, like a lot of the time when I'm experimenting, and this is kind of like where my session kind of gets quite interesting for me, is that I normally just use my photography work as like a start to see what Adobe can do for me.
Right.
Um, I don't really get into prompts too much. I kind of just let the tech and the tools do the heavy lifting for me.
Mm.
And I'll normally do this while I'm listening to like my favorite, songs or a really great playlist, music and
MIA.
creativity. Yeah, have a really good like it just makes me feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And I kind of just see where generative AI will take me. And I find that it's just as inspiring as kind of, coming up with a brand new concept from scratch and then having to do all the heavy lifting to get it there.
Yeah.
Generative expand is kind of like one of my favorite tools because you can just keep going and going and going. And it kind of, I mean, for this one, I think it's just going to get a darker, darker tunnel.
Yeah.
But to me, that's kind of cool in itself. I'm going to go really wide here. Maybe I'll add a prompt.
It's cool though as well, right? Like doing that, and I'm starting to think of like almost it's abstractly looking like a bit like a keyhole, like coming through a door. So like something like that could give you an idea, and then you're like, oh, actually, maybe I should do a little bit of a photo manipulation here. Maybe maybe just starting from that thing, it turns into something that you never would have expected, or you may not have come up with, yourself.
It just
scratch disk is full.
And so that kind of takes me to like the title of my talk, Master of None. I have real issues with like getting my workspace nice and clean and right. But like you said, yeah, Flynn, I think like something like this, obviously it's not vastly different to the original image, but already texturally and like visually, it's quite an interesting thing. That when I save this out and put into mood boards, or I have it as something to reference as like an idea for a music video or an idea for, a content piece for Instagram or an experiment, that's when it gets quite exciting. So I kind of do this a lot. And a lot of the time with photography, I go, I get quite close to the subject just so we can start again. Like you could expand from this point.
Right.
Of course, but I normally like to go in tighter just to see what, generative AI could repurpose or repaint this picture for me.
Do you think that might impact how you take photographs now that you're there? So like if I was doing this process, I might come to the conclusion that, you know what, I want a really high res figure, and then because I can kind of expand from there. Like, does it kind of dictate like your workflow a little bit?
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of the kind of creative portraits that I've been doing that we showed before is kind of based on that thinking of like, where can I take this once I get it into Photoshop?
Yeah.
Because then you're not really tied to a really strict shot list. You can just shoot really wild, and you have some kind of like contingency and room to move when you get it into post and you get it into Photoshop. And I think that's like the most amazing thing for me, where that kind of workflow just excites me because again, you're not pigeonholing yourself into a particular way of working. It's just so open, and I love that. And then you dissect things, you remix things, you pick things apart. I do really find that really exciting. And for me, it's like I love, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I love when the machine gets it wrong sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sure. I think it's just that magic of like human input and robot learning or AI learning, that meeting point to me is so special and has that kind of like excitement and eclecticism and unknown that really takes our art to the next level. I'm a big advocate towards using AI responsibly, and if it can help support an original idea and an original story that's made from a human. I mean, these conversations, we've had them all the time.
Yeah.
I'm all for it because, just sparking back to my session, Master of None, which you can register now. That's what I need to rely on. I'm not an artist that is trained in anything. And I need help to tell my stories, and Photoshop, Gen AI, and Generative Expand are like my favorite tools because they've just saved me from a lot of lack of skills and lack of knowledge. I think it's like it saved me a lot and helped me with my career lately.
And hey, we were talking about music before, like kind of listening to music while you're doing this stuff. Obviously, we don't have any music on right now. Imagine it in your head. But how much does, especially as a musician yourself, as a artist and producer, like how much does the type of music that you're listening to impact kind of the visual output? Do you have to find yourself, you're like, man, everything's getting really grungy. I'm listening to a lot of like hip hop or something. Like I need to lighten the mood because you know it's impacting. Like this sunny photo doesn't really reflect that kind of music or something like that.
Oh, totally. Like
Well, this could be a
I'm a,
Diddy. This could be definitely be a Diddy like album.
yeah, yeah. I thought you were going to say Diddy House. I'm like, I don't know if we
No,
should
no,
go
no, no,
there.
no. I wouldn't say that.
Um, I think, yeah, I think for me it was like music. Sometimes when I'm making an art piece or like a moving experiment, I will start with music because I mean this generative expand did such a great job.
That's perfect.
Um, Pretty well. Let's go wider. I think like it just gets me in a mode of thinking and rhythm.
Mm.
Art to me has always been about rhythm, you know, and the feel of things. Photography, especially when I'm out taking photos, I want to feel the rhythm of the scene I'm in, the people that I'm with, the people that I'm seeing. I can't take photos without listening to music. It's the same with creating. Like if we weren't on the live now, I would be listening to like um you know, jazz or score. I listen to a lot of like classical score music, something that's
Yeah.
a bit more cathartic and gets me in like a drone like um feeling where I'm just like creating without even noticing.
Yeah.
But if I'm making something a little bit more energetic, yeah, I'll put on like some of my favorite hip hop or like, you know, some really great beats from friends I know.
Mm.
It just gets me into that zone, you know.
Yeah. Definitely. What's your go-to hip hop? This is probably only exciting for me, but
Uh I do love Kendrick, but that's a little bit like on the nose at the moment, isn't it?
right.
But you know, I'm a bit of an old head, so like I love things like Tribe Called Quest,
Tribe.
De
Yeah.
La Soul.
Sick.
I'm still very much in that era, and that kind of shows my age a little bit.
Yeah. No, me too. It's exactly the same. Tribe. Taleb. Jackson
Yeah,
5. All that.
yeah, all that. I mean, that was like the golden age, right, of hip
Totally.
hop. So that's my DNA. That's where I've come from. Kind of that discovery of learning about those kind of artists. Okay, I think they've had enough expanding to that one. Um, but yeah, this is kind of like where I sit a lot of the time
Yeah.
when I'm using Adobe tools. This is like my favorite tool to use. I think the reason why is that it just is you can start with something as simple as this and you know taking photos on your phone. If you're not a photographer, everyone's a photographer once you've got a camera in your hand.
Yeah.
Um, you know, just start with something like this where you're just remixing photos you took, photos you own.
Mm.
And it does open up kind of like a lot of thought processes and ideas for other things that you can execute later, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And also, we are live guys as well. So if anyone has any questions in chat, feel free to throw them in as well, or you'll be stuck with all of mine. You know, more hip hop related questions. Yeah, that's cool. What were you in Miami when you were there last time, out of curiosity?
I was
Just a
playing.
holiday? Are you playing?
No, I was playing. So I used to tour a lot. I don't tour anymore for my music. Um, and I was here for a show. I played a festival out in Miami.
Cool.
I bombed it.
What do you
I
mean?
didn't
You
do.
bummed it like
I
it?
just like it was like on this tour. Like when I was on this tour back in the day, it was like the first tour that I started singing,
Right.
and I was touring with Masego, who was my support act at the time, which is crazy because now he's like won't return my calls. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
Super nice guy. And like Wafia as well was on the road with me, and
All
they're
right.
both amazing singers. And I remember I was singing on the tour bus, and I was like, "You should just sing these songs live." And I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a go." And then I did, and yeah, 9 times out of 10, my voice would break on stage because I was so nervous. But again, it's all good. It
Try
was
new
something that I
things.
got to try new things, push
Yeah.
myself out of my comfort zone, embarrass myself. Um, that's always been my MO though. Because you got to try it. If you don't, you'll never know.
Yeah.
If you'll be good at it.
Yeah.
And yeah, performing live, singing live is not something I'm good at.
It's not an easy thing to do. Like, it's one of the
No, it's
scariest
very
things I
daunting.
think to do.
I can try now if you want. No, I'm kidding.
Let's bust it out. Let's go. I'll isolate you.
Um,
15-minute
but yeah, I
freestyle.
think
Go.
When I was in high school, I used to like steal a lot of freestyles from Tribe Called Quest because no one knew who Tribe Called Quest were. So I don't plagiarize now, but when I was a teenager, I used to.
That's good. That's awesome. Yeah, you had like you had the CDs from someone you knew overseas or something.
Yeah, for my cousin, it was like I was the only one that
Yeah.
had that knowledge, insider knowledge.
And you youthful people out there don't know what the world was like back then. I did the same thing. I was in America, and someone let us copy a whole bunch of their CDs, and it was all of that. It was the first time I'd ever heard Tribe Called Quest, Jurassic 5, like Taleb, Kweli, like all of that, Black Star, like all of that. Brought it all back, and just that's all I listened to forever because I was like found this holy grail. You know, this is pre Napster, right? Like this is a very long time ago. So
It's funny, that kind of era of music is kind of like what I chase all the time. That kind of
yeah,
discovery, being in high school and hearing all that for the first time, I was like it was magical. And I
yeah,
think whenever I create, it's always trying to chase that feeling of like, this feels new, this feels fresh, this
mm,
feels exciting to me. That'll always be in my DNA for sure.
yeah,
Um, being a big hip hop fan for sure.
yeah, yeah. Me too. That's awesome.
But yeah, this is kind of like what I do.
Yeah,
Um, and I'll just do it one more time for this one.
cool.
Um, I think for me, it's just like, um, it does seem lazy, but I'll do this, at least 30 minutes a day.
Yeah,
Um, and I guess if I'm shooting more with intention and shooting portraits of people, I'll I'll get into this and start removing parts. I'll start, um, playing around with different sections and flipping it and removing them as layers and then creating new layers in Adobe After Effects or
yeah,
Adobe Premiere. I think
yeah,
for me, it's always kind of like pushing my existing imagery into places that excite me, and
yeah.
to keep me excited. That's my main kind of goal when I'm in Photoshop. Playing around with old images that I've taken.
Yeah, that's cool. And when you go, are you taking your camera this time?
Yeah, I'm gonna take my camera. I think I want to shoot some content on like a go figure on like a digital, like an old digital camera that I picked up in Korea.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I just want to create something new with. I heard there's a lot of really cool features coming out this year,
Hmm.
especially regarding video.
Uh-huh.
So I really want to try some things in that space.
Oh, if you want to find
Um,
out what that might be, go register for Adobe MAX.
yeah, there it is.
There it
There
is.
it is.
Um, yeah, go check it out. There's always big announcements at Max, and yeah, we'll definitely see what's happening there. So, do you have when you go out? And I'm asking because I'm taking my camera as well, my video camera though. My plan is I'm going to try and make a hype reel. Never made one before, but I'm going to make a day one, day two hype reel. We're going to edit it here on
Yeah,
Adobe
sick.
Live when we get back. I've never done it before, but I've reached out to one or two videographers and I'm like, hey, how do I plan this? And then so I've got like a shot list. But there's two things I'm trying to balance. One, I don't want to be shooting the whole time I'm there
All this time.
because
Yeah,
there's other things that need to be done. I'm hosting an Adobe Live as well, which is very exciting. And
sick.
but I also want to make sure that I get the right footage when I come back. So it's kind of like it's the first time I've done this. So do you have any tips for me for getting the shot, or do I get too much, or do I try to get that one shot and go, cool, I got that. Then let's move on to the next one. What's your approach for things like that?
Video is hard, man. I find
Yeah.
video is like one of those things you definitely have to plan for. Having a camera on you all the time really sucks.
Yeah. I've got this
Um,
big bulky camera too. It's pretty big. So yeah.
yeah. So I think I would just shoot like the things that interest you.
Yeah.
And it's that balance of like shooting, but also finding time to be present because you don't want to be that guy that's always like shooting everything and
Yeah.
missing what's at max. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
Also, you could probably just pay someone to do it for you.
I'm the one
Um,
I'm the one that would pay. Like it's I'm the contractor, I think. Like I gotta get out there, do it.
you are that person. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's so much crazy stuff at Max. Like I try to tell people what like the Adobe Max experience is like.
Yeah.
Because as a musician, you know, you with Coachella and all these other festivals. It's not like that, but
Mm.
it's like, and how do I say this without being cut off? Like, I'll cut off air, Adobe. It's like an introvert's Coachella.
Right.
It's
Introverts
hard.
Coachella. I like that.
It's not an introvert's Coachella because you still meet amazing people, you still meet all these amazing creators, but it's just a safe place to be. I'm
Yeah.
actually, you know, I believe I'm an introvert. My wife thinks I'm an extrovert,
Right.
but um, when I'm at Max, you're meeting so many people, but it doesn't feel like this strain.
Right.
It
It's
doesn't feel like
pressure.
you're being drained, and you're just
Yeah.
experiencing such a. And it's based all around creativity and
Mm.
like tools. And then with Bash, I think we talked about it before. It's common knowledge T-Pain's playing, right? Yeah, it
I
is.
think so.
Um,
Anyway, announcement.
hope so.
There's the scoop.
Um,
Yeah, no, he's on the website.
The Bash event as well was like one of the most amazing things I've gone to, where like everyone is so respectful of each other's space, but it's like a crazy party. There's a
Yeah.
great act, but you don't have to feel like you're going to get knocked over or like some drunk person's going to spill beer over your head and you're going
Yeah.
to get into it. It's just a very nice place to be.
Yeah.
It's a very wholesome. It's a very wholesome place,
Yeah.
centered
Sure.
around creativity.
Yeah.
This is probably actually the best one that we've done all day. So,
This is cool.
yeah, it
Got
kind
all
of
that
just took
artifacting
the
going on.
really cool artifacting, and it's like I don't know Miami. This is not what Miami will look like when we go, but
Hopefully not.
interesting take. Interesting take on Miami. Yeah, let's zoom in. Actually,
Some strong weather
we don't want to
happening
trigger
apparently.
anyone. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I hope we'll be safe.
That's awesome. Well, that's great. Well, I think we'll leave it on that high note because yeah, this is a really cool kind of interesting one. You could put like a filter on that and make it like a seem like a painting. I think you could probably get away with some big brush strokes there or something. It's pretty cool.
Totally. Yeah.
But yeah, as always, awesome chatting with you. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Thank you for having me.
You've got me hyped. Yeah, go to max.adobe.com, register, start planning your schedule, and check out Taku's session. I'm sure you will love it. It's really super cool. But that's it. That's us, my friend. We'll wrap
Thanks
up.
for having me.
Thanks
for
jumping
having
on.
me, and I hope to see you all at Adobe MAX.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next. Oh, actually, we're back in like 20 minutes for another one with Christina Ryan from Industrial Light and Magic, which is really cool. So go have a coffee or something like that, have a tea, and then come back, and we'll be right back. Thanks again. See you, Reg.
See ya.
Bye.